Okay, Mr. Paul here, back with part 2 for 7th chords. So in the last one, we went over the five most common types of 7th chords. So we had a major 7 chord, a dominant 7 chord, a minor 7 chord, a half diminished 7th chord, and a fully diminished 7th chord. So that's a lot to take in, but we ran what that would look like using C as our root note for everything. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about some more just like general ways of thinking about these things and ways of conceptualizing it that I use that I think will help. So last time I was saying we'd have like a chord symbol, maybe C for example, and then if we wanted a minor 7, we would have that there, just a little M in the 7, okay? But just like with chord progressions where we kind of start to learn how to use Roman numerals instead of saying the actual chords, so we have like a more universal key signature, we can kind of do the same thing here. So a lot of times instead of putting an actual chord in, I'll just put an X as like a placeholder for a chord. All right, so let's go over some ways of thinking about this, just like a general thing and not worrying so much about what the actual chord is. So X is just a placeholder for any chord. And I'm putting them in the same order I did in the last video. So we got a major 7 chord, dominant chord, minor 7 chord, half diminished, full diminished. So over here I'd be thinking, well, this is a major chord plus a major 7th. All right, that's all I really need to know. That's the formula for a major 7 chord. And I'm going to use a big M for a major 7th, which remember is 1 shy from the octave. So if we're using C as a reference, B is your major 7th. Then I'll use a lowercase m for a minor 7th. Okay, X dominant 7. It's going to be major chord plus a minor 7th. Okay, that's a pretty easy way to remember it, right? Then we don't have to think about all these chords individually. We can just kind of think of like the bigger building blocks here. All right, X minor 7. It's going to be a minor chord plus the minor 7th. All right, and we were saying technically you could play this one and put the major 7th on top instead, and you get that kind of weird detective chord, and that's called a major, or a minor major 7 chord. A little confusing. So it's trying to be like the chord's minor, but the 7th is major. So okay, half diminished. It's going to be a diminished chord plus the minor 7th. And then our fully diminished one was a little weird, right? That's going to be a diminished chord plus a diminished 7th. We can think of it that way. That also ends up translating to a major 6, which is kind of strange. But I don't think anyone really thinks of it that way. In the theory world, we wouldn't define it like that. So there you go. That's like the overall outline for this stuff. So if you already know your major, minor, diminished chords, then you're just tacking on this extra note. You just need to know what it is. You might notice that augmented is suspiciously absent here. It pops up. I'll see it in jazz lead sheets and stuff like that. And usually you'll see something like this. It'll be like a X7 sharp 5. You'll see something like that a lot of times. It's like for a C chord. You might see something like that. Again, it's a really crunchy chord. They'll usually choose something else instead. But that'd be like a C, E, G sharp, B. Yeah, we're not going to worry about that one really. Okay, so another way of thinking about this, I'm going to scooch my whiteboard a little bit, is if we're thinking in terms of major thirds and minor thirds, well, these all need to be stacks of major thirds and minor thirds somehow. That's kind of the rules when it comes to chords. So if we see something where there's 4 notes or 4 keys in between 2 of the notes we're playing, that must be a chord in inversion or something like that. It's definitely not in root position though. So these are all root position chords, and they're all going to be stacks of thirds. So here's another way to think of this. Well, a major chord is 3 and 2, if you remember those discussions from a long time ago. So we skip 3 here for the major third, skip 2 there for the minor third, right? 3, 2. So I'm going to put that 3 plus 2. Then major 7 is another major third, so that's 3. So it's like 3, 2, 3. So if we apply that formula anywhere on the keyboard, we're going to get a major 7 chord. So let's keep that moving. Another major chord to start off. And then we get the minor 7th. Oh, and that's a skip 2. So it's like 3 plus 2 plus 2. All right. Minor 7 chord. So what a minor chord is 2, then 3. We still end up in the same spot, so the minor 7th is going to be a 2. Oh, that's kind of interesting. It's almost like if we took the major 7 and flipped it, right? So we can start seeing some patterns here. Here is the half diminished. So diminished chord is 2 and 2. Then that minor 7 is going to be 3 above that. And then our fully diminished is just going to be 2, 2, and 2. And we were saying in the last video, if you keep tacking those 2s on, you keep doing more minor thirds, you'll end up back on the same note you started on, which is a kind of interesting property of these. So, a little more esoteric, I guess, with how I explained it this time, but you know, if we're looking at the bigger picture of how these 7th chords work, this is kind of like the guide here in a nutshell. Then you just insert whatever chord you need here. So say it's like a D7. Okay, so I'm gonna play D major 7, put the minor 7th on top, and I can spell out the notes and get it. So in lessons, we can kind of experiment more with these 7th chords. And then really the most natural way to mess with them is just start learning music that uses more 7th chords, like jazz and things like that, and a lot of lead sheets. And you just kind of figure them out as you go, and you'll develop your own system. So, all right, I hope this helps. See you on the next one.